Welcome to Silver Bar Stacker, folks. I hope everybody's doing well and enjoying their Sunday. That's right, folks. Today is Sunday, and it's a very special Sunday today, folks. It's Christmas Eve, so I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas Eve, and I hope you have a great forthcoming Happy New Year as well. So I just wanted to start off with that for sure, and then I wanted to also say, hey, let's do something fun today. Let's focus on something maybe that we have is going to be completely new to many of us. I mean, I've been learning stuff about what it is that we have in front of here over the past 24 hours on top of what I've already known, and so I'm excited to share, my original findings and maybe some of even my new findings here with you today regarding Engelhard Baker Dental Industrial Products. Now, here at Silver Bar Stacker, as you know, or maybe you don't know if you're here watching for the first time, but here at Silver Bar Stacker, we love ourselves some vintage silver, right? And if you're not familiar with what vintage silver is, I mean, when I talk about vintage silver, I'm talking specifically about kind of a lot of these nice, cool pieces that were created by private refineries back in, around the 70s and 80s is really when it was a very kind of a popular and almost like a mainstream thing to be doing, right? And so at that time, there were many, many companies, some very, very small companies that were creating unique style silver bars and rounds and ingots, and so there's a huge collector community behind these types of bars and all types of obsessive people who are kind of going after these pieces by these different private refiners. And so we are no different. We also are big fans of some specific vintage private refiner stuff, and one of those things that we are into are Engelhard products. Now, Engelhard is one of the most widely recognized companies from back in the day. They were one of the big dogs, right? So you had Johnson Matthey, you had Engelhard. These were two of the big dogs back in the day, and so they are very, very recognizable names, and there's huge collector communities around both of those brands. Now, JM, Johnson Matthey, that was kind of still in existence up until kind of the more recent years, and so I would say there's kind of a larger variety of things that you could collect, both modern and older, from Johnson Matthey, but whereas Engelhard was, I would say they were kind of the cream of the crop. They kind of set the standard, and they were kind of looked at as kind of the top of the line, right? In my view, a lot of people would agree with that. Maybe some people wouldn't agree with that, but I would say definitely Engelhard is one of the most recognizable names, and I would say when it comes down to Engelhard, that is definitely the refiner that we specialize in the most, right? We have almost every type of common Engelhard example available on our silverbarstacker.com website, and we even have many of the rarer examples of some of the Engelhard stuff, and so that's something that we are very, very highly specialized in. Johnson Matthey also we're very highly specialized in as well, but I would say Engelhard is what we are most specialized in, so much so that we kind of go a little bit maniacal with it in the sense that we branch out into other things that were produced by Engelhard as well that do not encompass bullion. Now, a lot of individuals who are into investing and collecting and are just really into the hobby of stacking silver, well, when it comes down to vintage silver or just generally silver in general, you would probably know, from an investment standpoint and from a usage standpoint, well, silver is very, very widely used in industrial capacity, right? Whereas when you're comparing it to gold, for example, gold is really just seen as kind of like an investment vehicle. A lot of people use it as a store of value. It's very heavily used in jewelry making, right? And so the industrial usage of gold, while it is present, it is nothing in comparison to the industrial usage of things like copper and platinum and palladium and silver. And silver is very, very much so used in the industrial. Now, half, I think it's over more than half of the supply. Don't quote me on this, but I think it's kind of more than half of the supply of the silver that we kind of uncover is more than half of it is used in industrial capacity. So that just kind of goes to show how much of an impact silver has had, not just as an investment vehicle, but also in industrial capacity. And so when it came down to Engelhard, Johnson Matthey, these people had their hands in many, many different things. They weren't just into creating precious metals for for private investment usage, right? They had their hands in many, many things. Anything that requires metals, right? Especially industrial metals like silver and platinum, palladium. These types of things were something that Engelhard, Johnson Matthey would try to take the market share for. So you see freaking catalytic converters and stuff probably with Johnson Matthey name on them somewhere. Here, you could probably find. And maybe in the collector community, there might be some random weirdo who will pay a bunch of money for that because it says JM on it. Maybe not, A lot of this stuff probably does not have that much of collective value. There's a very, very small buyer pool of people who would be interested in some super obscure thing, especially when it comes down to something that was used in industry. Well, then it just comes down to being kind of a collectible, and it doesn't even have the backing of, like, when you're collecting vintage bars and rounds, for example, well, you got the added value that you can back on the pure bullion that you're holding, right? So you can always fall back on the silver weight, right, if you ever need to trade that in a moment of desperation. But then most of the time you're paying an arm and a leg for of a premium for that vintage, usually when you're buying it intentionally, right? So that's one thing to note, is that when you start kind of getting into collecting things like this, like, it's cool, you've got these boxes that say Engelhard on it, and there's maybe some cool stuff in there, but the premium that I had to pay for this, it's not going to come back if I try to take this to my local coin shop. In fact, if I go to my local coin shop, they won't touch this. They would not touch this because they would just be like, well, this is not even pure bullion. What the heck are we going to do with this? These things here that you're seeing in front of you, these are actually not pure bullion. These are actually dental pellets. They were dental amalgam. They were used in the dentistry process, and they're actually only made of like around 70% silver, right? 65 to 72% silver. I think these ones are marked as 72%. I think the Engelhard dental pellets also fall around the 70 to 72% purity range. So you got 70 to 72% silver embedded within this as some sort of an alloy, right? You see these little pellets here? These are some sort of a silver alloy that consists of 72% silver non-zinc micro pellets. So these actually it's some sort of an alloy. It's got 72% silver, and then it's made up of some sort of an alloy. And these were used for kind of dental fillings and things like that back in the day. So dentists would actually have these on hand, and they would use them for, I think, fillings for cavities and stuff like that. I mean, of course, they wouldn't, use something this old. Probably to this day, these are probably no longer of use, right? It's just kind of more of a collectible. But these right here, what you see, these are these little pellets. They're little micro pellets, and they're used in the dentistry process. Now these right here, you see, they don't say Engelhard anywhere on them, and that's because they're not Engelhard. These are actually just another example of dental pellets that were used back in the day in industry, and it was created by a different company called Koch. The LD Koch Company, Milford, Delaware, 1990 something, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, made in the USA. Okay, so you've got both of these are 1 troy ounce, but they're only 72% dental amalgam. So here, this one says 6 grains each. So each of these pellets is 6 grains, and there's 80 total pellets, and it's a total of 1 troy ounce, 31.1 grams. So all 80 of these pellets in total amount to 1 troy ounce of 72% silver. Interesting, huh? Same with this. This is also 1 troy ounce of pellets, but this is in some sort of I don't know if this is a glass or a plastic jar. It looks like a glass jar. This is like a plastic tube with 4 rows. So the reason I got these is because I'm already into collecting pellets. So now the collector in me was like, well, let me go down a deeper rabbit hole and have some other sort of examples of different sort of dental pellets made by other companies, right? Because I'm already into the dental pellets made by Engelhard. Now, I haven't showed you the ones made by Engelhard yet. What's interesting about these dental pellets that were made by Engelhard, actually, now they came in a couple different varieties, actually. Well, not varieties, but they came packaged in a couple different ways. Now, what I just showed you right here is this box of 5 troy ounces of dental pellets, and this says Engelhard right here on the box. Engelhard Industries Division, dental. So this is a Baker Dental Aristaloy pellets. Very interesting. So, what's interesting about that is that this came in a box of 5 troy ounces, and it actually comes with the original instructions. Baker model 2, blah, 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 blah. So let's open this up. Now, I'm not a dentist, so I'm not going to be able to explain this to you. I'm not going to attempt to explain it to you. But what I am going to attempt to do is just show you this original instruction manual here. You got the hand trituration, mechanical trituration, mercury removal and condensation, finishing and polishing. And here you got the Engelhard Baker Dental directions for the use of Aristaloy alloy. Aristaloy dispensers. In fact, I've got some of these dispensers as well, which is pretty interesting. Those dispensers look like this. You see that? So I've got some of those, and there's a powder is another form of this dental stuff. But right now we're focused actually just on the pellets. But that was just something that I wanted to show you, because that's right here in the instruction manual right here. So I have one of those. So this is the universal mercury dispenser, whatever the heck that means. Setting A, B, C, D, E, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so interesting. It shows you how to use whatever the heck this is. This was used in the industry, right? And so here, what we have is individual tubes. Each of these tubes is a half troy ounce, and you've got 10 tubes. You've got one row here, and then below that, there's another row of tubes below that. So what's unique about these Engelhard dental pellets, unlike these ones are just kind of basically plain blank pellets there. Now, if you look over here and you open this up, what you notice about these, well, first of all, they're very thin, right? So there's about 55 pellets to a half-ounce tube. I did the math, and I think it amounts to about 0.28 grams per pellet. And each of these pellets is about 70 to 72% pure silver. Now, what's interesting about these Engelhard Baker dental pellets is that one side will be marked with an A there. So each of these pellets has a marking with an A on one side, and then the other side will be blank. It's very interesting. So you've got 10 total half-ounce tubes that come in this 5 troy-ounce box with the original instructions. And so this is one of the ways that these dentists were able to purchase these Aristaloy pellets if they needed them for their clients. Apparently Koch sold them in 1-ounce tubes, so a little bit more accessible. Now, we showed you this box. Now, if you look at the box out here, you see some slight differences there, right? Look at the box. The box looks a little bit different. Now, I've come to the conclusion after looking through many of these types of boxes that Engelhard actually distributed 2 types of boxes. So we just saw this one that looks like this, right? This box looks a little bit different than this box, right? You see that this is different. You see that up here it says 5 troy ounces plus the grams. Here it just says 5 troy ounces, right? Here it has a Baker Dental logo here. Here there's no Baker Dental logo anywhere on the box. It only just says Baker Dental on the actual instructions in the inside of the box, right? So here it doesn't say Baker Dental anywhere on it. Here it does say Baker Dental on it twice. And there's some smaller variations there as well. Here you had 5 ounces, meaning 10 tubes of loose pellets. Whereas here, you've actually got 5 boxes which each contain 1 troy ounce, and each of these mini boxes contains 2 tubes. So they both contain 10 tubes, but this thing in my opinion is even cooler because it comes with 5 individual boxes, and each of these boxes actually has 2 more tubes in it, right? So you got 1 troy ounce in this mini box, and there's 5 mini boxes inside the big box for a total of 5 troy ounces. So it's interesting to me that you've got 2 different variations here now on these pellets. Now, Another thing I happened to come across, and this is kind of, I would almost say, not maybe a grand finale, but kind of almost like a step up from both of these. Now, but this might be for the ultimate dentist or something like that. I don't know. It's 11 troy ounces. It's almost like a value pack or something. I don't know if these came cheaper or something, or, if it's for some of those high volume dentists, but take a look at this right here. Here you had 10 individual tubes just kind of loose. Here you had 5 boxes with 2 tubes each in each of the boxes. And here you've got 11 troy ounces of boxes. So you got 11 boxes, each with 2 tubes in each of them. And now something that's consistent among each of these Aristalloy pellets that were produced by Engelhard and Baker Dental is that they all have that A marking there on the top of the pellet. So that's something that I noticed. Now, as you kind of collect certain things, as many collectors do, is they kind of go down a deep rabbit hole and they just want everything. Anytime they see anything pop up that is somewhat related, they want to go for it. So, maybe some might look at this and be like, wow, that's the holy grail of dental pellets or something. Well, I don't know. The rabbit hole can go deep sometimes, and something I was able to come across by a very, very avid long-term collector of mine who essentially kind of bought out essentially his entire collection, and he had very, very interesting things to share with me. Very interesting things. I wasn't able to get all of them, but I was able to acquire whatever I could at that time. And boy, this is one of the coolest things. It's kind of a one-of-a-kind thing here. I've already kind of given up one of these to a friend just to kind of show them it and be like, hey, this is cool. I'd like you to have one. But check this out. This right here, Baker B Metal. This is a 1 pound box. It's in extremely rough shape. It's completely broken. This box is in very rough shape, and it's the only one I have. But this is a 1 pound box of also, let me show you, dental pellets of some sort. Baker B Metal pellets. These are actually 1 pound, and there's 8 of them here originally. And this one, instead of an A pellet, it's kind of got a B marking on the top, maybe for Baker or Baker B Metal. I don't know, maybe for B. But right here, you've got a very chunky, I call this the chunky Rolo dental pellet, kind of reminiscent of those Swiss of America Draper Mint Rolo rounds. But this right here, rather than being 1 ounce or 5 ounce or anything like that, is 1/8 of a pound, because you've got 1 full pound of pellets in here, and there was 8 total pellets, meaning each of these pellets is 1/8 of a pound. So here you've got what I call the chunky Rolo dental pellets, Baker B Metal. Instead of the A pellets, you got the B pellets. So this is just something extremely, extremely unique. I haven't actually planned to put these on the website, but I'm thinking maybe I will have, maybe a couple of these 1/8 pound pellets available. I certainly am not going to be selling the entire thing as is, because it's the only thing that I have, and I like to keep this box for sure. So maybe I might sell off a couple of the individual pellets to people who might be interested in that. I'll put them on the website, and I might have maybe I might not have the chest of 11, but maybe I might put a chest of 5 ounces of loose things. I might put a whole box up there. Then I might put one of these individual 1 ounce boxes. I've actually already got the 1 ounce boxes. If you want to just grab a single one of these boxes, I've got those available on the site. I think it's $125 right now. I've got a couple of them available. So if you want to grab those while the price is at that price, you can go ahead and do that. If you want to add one of these to your collection, I don't think I'm going to probably put up an entire box of 5 boxes quite yet. I might put up a box of 5 ounces of loose things for somebody who wants one of these black boxes, and a bunch of pellets, and then maybe I might get some examples of these up for a little bit cheaper, in case people like the idea of collecting these weird, obscure industrial dental pellets, but maybe they don't want to break the bank and pick up the Engelhard ones. Maybe I can put some of these caulk ones up for a little bit cheaper. So I thought this was a very interesting thing that perhaps would be very new to you. I mean, a lot of this was really new to me, honestly. And while I'm not a dentist and I don't really have a dentistry background, I am a fan of collecting Engelhard stuff. And so I found this to be a very, very unique and obscure and quirky type of thing that I could introduce to you all that you might get a kick out of. And hey, if you want to add something unique like this to your collection, feel free to head over to silverbarstacker.com. And, I've got a couple options here for these little quirky dental pellets. Otherwise, if you want to actually buy something that is a little bit less risky, we've got many, many other options here. gear available from very common to very, very rare. Engelhard, Johnson Matthey, USVI, Sunshine Mining, Bunker Hill, all these types of things are available there on the silverbarstacker.com website. So we'll leave it at that. Keep it a short 20-minute video. I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. And hey, I might head up onto our Whatnot store. That's whatnot.com/user/silverbarstacker. I might head over there maybe later today and just do kind of a traditional auction. So go ahead and give me a follow on there if you would like to, and that way if you're following me, then you would just be notified for any of the shows that I schedule. And I'll try to go ahead, if I'm planning to go live, then I'll go ahead and put that on the calendar, on the Whatnot calendar, kind of like half an hour to an hour before I go live. And then that way, since you'll be following me, then you'll get the notification that I'm going live and doing an auction. Generally, I do an auction every Sunday, and because it was Christmas Eve, some individuals were saying, hey, maybe you might not want to do an auction, but I think I'm going to stick to my routines, and I probably will end up doing an auction. But instead of doing those kind of weird mystery auctions that I do and that a lot of Whatnot sellers do, I think I'm just going to stick with the traditional auction. And I've made a whole bunch of updates to the website, and we've been selling through quite a bit of stuff and accordingly needing to increase our prices on select items, but everything is pretty much still a crazy good deal on the website right now. So please, if you haven't had a chance to browse the silverbarstacker.com website, please do that, because right now the prices are very competitive, and I always like to reward the early birds with the worm. And so we've been selling through a lot of stuff this week because the prices have been very good. And so I would advise you that if you are kind of looking to pick up some vintage pieces, then now is a very, very good time to do it before I start kind of increasing prices and we start selling through a lot of our inventory. Then at that point I might need to start increasing prices. So check it out if you want to, no pressure. And if you do have a chance to join on the auction later today, that would be awesome. If not, we'll be doing those every Sunday. And, I'll try to put those on the calendar maybe a week in advance next time so that, we have a little bit more of a crowd there and it's a little bit more fun, right? But since I haven't really announced too much, today is going to be a good day to tune in because quite frankly, there's not going to be a lot of people there, so you won't be competing against a lot of people. And since it's going to be a traditional auction, you're going to know what you're bidding on for pretty much everything. So it might be a good time to get some deals for sure. So hope to see you there. Give me a follow and you'll get notified. And we'll see you all next week if we don't see you later today. Cheers and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.